Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pop's Reviews. And this is what I have on review for today. Title Bout 2. Yeah, I've been playing this for a little bit now, and I thought I would do a little review on it here. So this is, as you can see, Rulebook 4.0. So this is the most recent Title Bout game by Jim Trunzo. So I'm going to go through the game a little bit, what I think of it in the end. But I'll give you a bit of history, and I'll go through some of the rules and gameplay and that, and then just my thoughts at the end of Title Bout 2. Uh, so this game is my first purchased boxing game ever. I had never purchased a boxing game before this. This was my first purchase, but then this was taking forever, so then I ordered another boxing game. And I did a review on that already. So I'm going to keep it to Title Bout 2 here. But so you can take my review for what it is, but I think my 2 cents is worth something here because as a new player to the game and uh, a fan of boxing and a fan of sports games and that, I think it's good to have a review like this to talk about and see someone else's point of view, and especially uh, concerning the history of this game. This game is a game that actually started back in 1979 called Title Bout 1, just Title Bout, and it was a well received game for people that were boxing fans and wanted to play a boxing game. It was well received, and people who played the first Title Bout and had it actually really loved the first game. And the designer Jim Trunzo, I guess, decided to uh, maybe make the game more realistic, and started adding, from what I've heard, rules or different additions to the game. But sometimes with those additions came more of a complexity to the game, maybe slowing down the game, and so some people weren't really fans of some of the additions. So you have some people that are huge fans of the first one, and then there are people that are also fans of this second one, Title Bout 2. And Title Bout 2 was also a Kickstarter game a few years back. It was kickstarted. It made about 14,000 or so, I think. And usually with Kickstarters, you get some extras and that kind of thing. There wasn't any extras really. I mean, you're getting the box game, and we'll talk about that in a bit as well. But you were getting a boxed game, and you were getting, I guess, your 100 plus heavyweights, and then the exclusive for the Kickstarter was that you were able to get some of the other weight divisions at a cheaper price. So you weren't really necessarily missing out on anything if you were to actually say purchase it today from Drive Through Games. You're not really missing out on any missed fighters or anything like that kind of thing, like Kickstarter exclusive type stuff. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Um, so yeah, so again, this game, um, now even from that Kickstarter that was a few years back, this game has been revised. The Title Bout 2 even. So from the first one to Title Bout 2, and now within Title Bout 2, there's been a lot of revisions for this game. So it's kind of made people either happy about the revisions of what Jim has done, or you're maybe disappointed of the way the game has gone. But the core of the game, I still believe, remains the same. I mean, I've never played the first one, so I can't tell you exactly how the first one plays. I can only go by hearsay and what I've read and from what I see. From the first game, it was a lot of there were perforated cards that you had to tear apart, and then there were your cards, and you had your decks and stuff like that. But I think the core of it is still pretty much the same. So let's talk about the game. So now, if you were to purchase this game from Straight Jab Media, um, is the company for this Title Bout 2, um, you have to order from a secondary party that actually prints out the cards for you. So you have to go through drive through games, um, and they will. It's essentially kind of like a print and play kind of a deal kind of thing. So you order the game, you order what set you want. They have a deal, so I got the core set, which is you're gonna get now. We're gonna talk about what you get and then what you're gonna need for this game. So what you get is you get 100 plus heavyweight fighters. So you're gonna get you're gonna get a case. You're gonna get your 100 plus heavyweight fighters. And the case is actually extra. And I suggest if you order from them that you get the larger case. There's a larger case and there's a smaller case, so as you can see in size. And they're both the same. They're both $1. So just go, if you're going to get this, get the larger case. If you're going to get this. Okay, so you're going to get 100 fighters. You're going to get some revised heavyweights because some of the just notations on some of the cards, just little minor changes. So you're going to get some revised fighters, and then you're going to get 4 charts. So now with this game, you get totally different charts to what I actually have here on what I printed out and laminated here as the gameplay area. This was actually, I don't know what version of Title Bout 2, but it was actually one of the revised charts now, where they go with these newer charts. So you get these 4 charts here. I'm having trouble picking these up here because I laminated them on my wood table. So just give me a sec here. Not cooperating when you're filming a video. So, okay. So here, I'll just move this up. So you can see here, this was the old Title Bout here. So, you had the logo, you had the different charts already on the game board. So it seems already like it was a nice, kind of polished. Everything is right here in front of you kind of thing, with the charts and everything. And so now, this is old. All this stuff is old. The only thing that is current, and for why I needed it printed out, was for the ring area and the scoring areas for the blue and red fighters. Don't mind the dice. The dice are just representation of the red and blue fighters. And there's going to be movement, which I'll show you on a bit of a playthrough. So yeah, the only thing off this here that's relevant is just the scoring area. This is all old. So when you order through drive-through games, you're getting in your set, like I said, the 100 fighters, I think 15 revised heavyweight cards, and you're going to get 4 charts. So you're going to get a cuts and swelling table, and these don't come laminated. I laminated them myself with my personal home laminator that I have. So you get this one chart, and they're just one-sided. You're going to get another chart. That one was for cut, swelling, referees, cornermen. This one is for, this is the point system for the judges scoring, control factor, clinching table, and referee error table. It says cuts and swelling at the top, but it has nothing to do with cuts and swelling. The other one is more for cuts and swelling. Then you're going to have the revised fouls table. So you have the referee table at the top of which type of referee you could choose. You have the different fouls, the categorized by A, B, C, D, E, according to what the fighters have on their cards. And you have a fighter's reaction to losing a point, if you don't even want to go that far. So you have that chart. And last, you have the fighter's KD KO rating chart. And you have, that comes with it as well, the carryover chart, technical knockout table, and time of stoppage for when you're using the cards. So these are the only 4 charts you have in the game that you're using. So that's not too bad. I mean, it's too bad, like, again, that it's not on something like how they had before, like what I have in front of me with this full game mat chart here, but it's changed into this. I guess, I don't know, for whatever reasons, like, I guess they're trying to save money or whatever the case is, so so you have that, and then, so you have those 4 charts, you get the 100 plus fighters, the revised fighting cards, and then you get the the core of the game, you're going to get these boxing action cards. So you're going to get a deck of 100. This is just, I divided it already into 50. But you're going to get a deck of 100 cards, and these here are telling you what your actions are for your fighters. So I will come back to this and tell you exactly what these all represent. But this here is essentially what you're getting, and these cards are actually, they're really nice, nice premium cards. They're nice and smooth. They're actually hard for me to shuffle when I'm shuffling. They kind of just slip out. So they're really, really nicely printed, nice and smooth cards. I was almost actually thinking about maybe sleeving these cards, because they're the cards that are going to be used the most. The fighter cards, you know, you're going to be mixing and matching fighters, and you probably won't play with them as much. So maybe there's not really a need to sleeve those cards. But these ones, you're going to probably be shuffling and moving around and that kind of thing. And I'm afraid to even like shuffle these cards, like to do that kind of action. I just rather just give them the old, just go like this, mix and match kind of thing, do that kind of action to get my cards going. But you're gonna get 100 cards. So the first thing to start the game is you want to obviously have your table set up. You're gonna need some representation for a marker to score points. I use these little kind of glass markers that I got from a game store that cost 15 cents. So I put them over the numbers when they score, so I could, so that it marks. The dice represent the fighters, because on the action cards that they're called, the BAC boxing action cards, they will tell you movement, so the fighters could get advantages when they're moving around the ring. So that's pretty cool. And and something like this as well. If you don't want to print out a big full map, because this is actually a free download. This chart is actually a free download off the Straight Jab Media site. But if you actually go to Board Game Geek, there's a fellow by the name of Dave's Wargaming Cave. If you check out his YouTube channel, Dave's Wargaming Cave, he actually does some really good playthroughs of this game and some of the other intricate systems of like cornermen and referees. He does a really good explanation, because he was an original player of the first title belt, so he kind of gets a lot of the changes, or where the changes are went to, kind of thing, from the first one. So if you're wanting to check out someone who knows how to play this in board game form, check out Dave's Wargaming Cave. Very good channel, very good guy. Check him out. Okay, so with that said, let's go to the fighter cards. You're going to pick, obviously 2 fighters, because boxing is a 2-man sport, right? So I've picked here, say, Joe Louis and Buster Douglas. Okay, so you're going to look here at the start of the game. Now, you're also going to have to, one thing that you can't get away from a boxing game is you're going to need to have sheets printed out for scoring. So I'm just going to show you here. There was a sheet here. They give you an example sheet. So you could go off their website as well and print off score sheets. And you're going to be writing down the fighters' informations on here. Okay, so this is all essential to playing a boxing game, is that you will have to, in between rounds, write down notation of like, their points, how many punches they landed, their endurance for the fight, if they commit any fouls, any cuts. You write their names at the top. So this is Joe Louis's category. This would be Archie Moore's category. You write the results. So you're keeping track of the fight. And this is all part of playing these games, is that you do have to write this stuff down to get the most out of your game. So this is the only, and this would be the only thing that also slows down the game, is the writing, writing the scores and the totals and that kind of thing. And using a bit of math to subtract and add and whatnot from, fighter totals and stuff like that. But, this is, if you're a fan of boxing, you're more than happy to do this kind of stuff here. This is all part of boxing. This is all part of playing a boxing game. So you're going to print off a score sheet like this, and this keeps track again of the rounds, and then you'll have the rounds here and the judges, judge 1, 2, 3, and what they scored. And then for the other fighter, what they scored, judge 1, 2, 3 for him. And, you'll make little comments, and, who was you'll maybe want to put down the referee, all that kind of stuff here. And the different, if you're playing by the Saved by the Bell rules, only last round, 3 KO knockdown rule, was that in effect or not when you played? So it's just a way to keep track of your fight, and if you play a league or that kind of thing, you have these to go back and reference. But essentially, to play a match, you're going to need a score sheet, and you're going to be writing down this information on a score sheet. So again, we'll go back to the card here. So we have Joe Louis here. Okay, so here's Joe Louis. So Joe Louis was a heavyweight boxer. It'll say HW. And there are other sets, right? So here, let's compare them. Here's a super welterweight, John Mugabe, the Beast. So the cool thing is these cards are nice, and the sets they have like differently on the back here. So these are the heavyweights, and then obviously this is super welterweight fighters. So this is pretty cool. I like actually the back of the cards that they did them differently, and not just generic for all the sets. So I look forward to getting a lot of these sets. I still have more of them coming here. So getting back to Joe Louis again now. So he's a heavyweight. He's ranked 10. Now the higher the total, the higher the number, the better the fighter. So Joe Louis is ranked 10, and then you have Buster Douglas that's ranked 6. So Joe Louis is the better fighter because he has the higher ranking. Then he has an E beside his name. So in Title Bout 2, if it has an E, you could either be a boxer or a slugger in this game. Now, if you look at Buster Douglas's card, he has a B beside his name. So Buster Douglas is a boxer, not a slugger. So the next thing we're going to look at now, so they have obviously his nickname, the Brown Bomber, and then they have his special trait, Strong Closer. This is something that you would look at in the rule book that tells you the trait of what the fighter does. I might go into that, but it's something maybe you can look at in your own time for all these different fighters, because there's quite a few traits. So then you're going to look at the control factor. Okay, so then you're going to look at the control factor. So the CF control factor, and then the BS. So not the BS that we think, but B stands for boxer, S stands for slugger. So the first number represents his control factor against a boxer, so it would be a 10, and against a slugger would be a 12. So now if we compare him to Buster Douglas, who's a boxer, he's going to have a control factor of 10. And Buster is a control factor of 9, whether it's against a boxer or a slugger. Now there's also what's called a conversion table, a control factor conversion table here. So this is something I should talk about here. So you're going to have a control factor conversion table. So hopefully you can see this here. So you're going to have boxer A, boxer B. So if boxer A is a 12 and boxer B is a 12, then you would revise their control factors to 10, 10. So they go through the list here, but actually, Joe Louis is a 10 against a boxer, and Buster Douglas is a 9. So we look up 10, 9 for boxer A, boxer B, but there isn't any 10, 9 on this chart. So if there isn't that control factor conversion on the chart, you just go by what the number is on the card. So it would be Joe Louis's control factor against Buster would be a 10-9 for the conversion or for the control factor. Okay, so now let's go through the rest of the cards. So we have his aggressor rating. So he's 8. So this comes into who will get the first card flipped for the fight. That's how the fight will start. So once we start the gameplay, compared to Buster, Buster is a 7. So Joe Louis would actually he would be the aggressor in the fight. So he's the one that would initiate the card flipping first. And then you have Killer Instinct. So this is his ability once he's knocked down Buster. And according to the chart, if the chart tells you for Killer Instinct, because in the old title bout, it used to be if you landed 5 points, if you scored 5 points, then you would be able to go into Killer Instinct. Now it's on the chart. The chart tells you if it's, if you scored the 5 points, if the Killer Instinct is on it or not. So that's a big difference from the last one. So then you would draw 10 cards from the top of the deck, and then Joe Louis would be trying to, he would have the control factor and try and close out Buster Douglas as best as he can. Then you have his endurance. Now the endurance 90 is for a 12-round fight. You can play, sorry for the jumble there. You can play a 10-round or a 15-round fight, and you just have to convert this number by multiplying it, I think, by 2 and then subtracting whatever number or adding whatever number to get the conversion rate. Then you have his foul rating, which is an A. So when you look on the chart, you'd be looking for foul rating A. Excuse me. His defensive 0. So this goes when the other fighter is trying to land punches. His defense is a 0, so he's not adding or subtracting anything. And then he has a knockdown rating of 3. So this is when you look up on the charts. And if he gets knocked down a second time, you're going to add the 2 numbers together. So that would make a 7 if he gets knocked down a second time. His knockout, it would be a 1. So you would be comparing that number to when that card is drawn. So he's pretty hard to knock out. He has a cut rating of 2, which will be added to a random number if a cut so happens. And then his counter punching is a 9, so that's a nice big number. And then he also has his fatigue side, so whenever his endurance goes down to 0, then you have to go off his fatigue side, which has the same numbers, but there would be reduced in some situations or increased or whatever the case is. So, and then you have strategies. This is something for if you want to give your fighters, if you want to add more to the game. It's not really a necessary, it's not a must to play the game, but if you want to take your game to the next level, you could give them strategies. So there's numbers rating for fighting inside, fighting outside. I forget what the CU is for, and I think obviously for knockouts. This is, I think, more defensive strategy here. So there's that, and then there's the actual stuff for the game here. So punches landed. So his punches landed when you draw numbers from 1 to 36. He's hitting, and 12 HP is his power. So if you draw a random number that is 12 and under, then he's going to have a chance to knock down or knock out his opponent. Again, this is the fatigue side. So as you see, like if he's more fatigued, his punches go down 1 to 32. The knockout power goes from 12 to 10. And then he has his punches missed. So if he draws a number that's from 37 to 48, he's missed a punch. And the CP is for counter punching. So if you draw a number from 40 to 48, then his opponent has a chance to counter him. So it's a pretty huge number. And then, let's give me 1 sec here. Okay, sorry about that. So, and then you have the clinching. So he's clinching from 49 to 61. And ring movement, 62 to 80. And then you have, if he scores from his punches landed, you would draw another random number. And then this tells you how many points he scores on whichever punch. So, and then you can see the difference here between him and Buster Douglas here. So, just showing you here from Buster Douglas. Now, Joe Louis, his 1 to 36, if he's fighting Buster Douglas, is actually goes up because Buster Douglas's defense is a 4. So the 4 is like essentially a +4, which would be added to Joe Louis's punches landed. So now Joe Louis, instead of landing 1 to 36, on Buster Douglas, he's landing 1 to 40. So that's a big range to be trying to hit on Buster Douglas. And you can see here some of the other stats for Buster Douglas, like his clinching is a bit higher than Joe, or lower, at 45 to 59, and Buster Douglas's counter punches start from 36 to 44. So you can see the differences here between the guys and their stats. So this is a very cool thing that each fighter has their own stats, their own way of fighting, and that's what makes these games really cool. Is that the care that has gone into the fighters and the history is just unbelievable. So this is the cool thing about always trying to have these matchups here. So let's go into like how the gameplay works here. So you would have you're going to have two decks. So you have two decks. You would shuffle these together, right? So there's 100 cards in here. You would shuffle these together, and then you're going to separate them into two decks of 50. Okay, so now you're going to draw these cards here, and they'll tell you exactly what happens here. So just give me a second here, and I'll set that up for you here. Okay, so this is how a game would start here. So you're going to flip the top card to start the round. So we flip the card, and remember Joe Louis he gets the first card because he's the aggressor. So you're going to flip the first card, and it's going to tell you the control factor. So Joe Louis, his control factor against a boxer is 10 and under. So the CF, the control factor, I should go through these cards here. So the control factor here is a 1. So Joe Louis would get control. I'll tell you what what this means here, and then we'll go through the how the game is played more. So the boxing action card has a control factor. This tells you who's in control. So if it's under the fighter, if it matches or is under the fighter's control number, then he gets control. Then the random number tells you if the fighter is able to land a punch, or there'll be other cases where there might be you might see something like a foul in that notation. So depending on where it's drawn, you'll use the order of action there. But usually it'll be a number, and this will tell you if punches land or missed, or if you're doing ring movement according to what the boxer has on his card here. So I'll show you how that works. But the first card, you're looking for control factor. Okay, so there's that. And then you would look for, if the punches land, you would look for the result number. So this would tell you on the card here what the result is. So let's say he got an 11. So this would actually be a power punch for him if we're just looking at this one card. This would actually be a power punch for him because this falls also under his 12 hit points or power, HP power. And then you would look, and the result would be a 13. The power shot would go down to this number here, which would be the KD4. So you would look on the chart, and if he scores his power shot, you would look on the chart, and then you would look to see what Buster Douglas's KD4 to his first number and his KD. You would look on the chart for that. We'll go into that a little more here, but usually your random number punch you'd go to the result, but this here is a power shot, so this would go to this KD number. The KD2 is if he gets knocked down a second time, then you would use that number, and then you have your knockout number. So this would be a 10. So if he was knocked down and the chart says check for a knockout, then you would look at the next number here, the knockout, to see if he was knocked out. Then you have the judges' ratings here. So if you on the chart, it'll tell you if you have to check the card to see like what the judges have. So this would be high score, low score, even. So high score is a 10-9, low score is a 9-10. Or for the loser that's whoever has the least punches landed, right? So would be the loser, right? So boxer red would have 1, Boxer Blue has 4. So Boxer Red is really the loser of the round, but the judges didn't see it like that, so this one judge would have Boxer Red winning the round 10-9. So that's how you would do that. And then even would just be a 10-10 round. And then you have certain conditions that if you draw something like a foul or an injury or a special, then you would check to see what these would, how they would help or hurt the fighter, whichever way they go. So just getting back to the gameplay now. So I drew the first card here. So this would be the control factor. We're just checking the control factors. So we're checking for Joe Louis, and the 1 falls under his 10. So Joe Louis would get control. Then we flip another card. So now we look, and it's a 6. So now the 6, again, because Joe Louis already has control, now he's looking to see if he's landing a punch. And again, the 6 lands under the 12 health points. So this is a power shot by Joe Louis on Buster Douglas. So now we flip that card. And we've just looked, the first card was control factor, the second card was the random number. And then the third card now, because it was a power shot, we would actually look at his 20. So now we look at the chart because it was a power shot. We look at this 20 to see if there's a knockdown. So now we look at the table here. So you look, the number drawn was 20. And then we look at Buster Douglas's KD1. So you look under 2. So we look under the category 2, which is here. And we'd look under 20. And that would be a K. A K would be score 6 points. Oh, what a punch. He is knocked down. Check for KO. If no KO, then full killer instinct. So that's telling you exactly what to do here. So you would score, we would reset the thing here. So we would score 6 points for Joe Louis, according to the K. It says, oh, what a punch. He's knocked down. Check for KO. So that means we'd flip another card to see if there is a KO. So now we flip another card. So now the KO is a 1. So now we look at Buster Douglas's card again. We look at his KO weighting. So he has a 9. So now we look at the chart 1 to 9. Am I doing this right here? I think, hang on, I think you actually add the number for a KO rating. It tells you how much I've knocked out somebody in this game. Hang on one sec. Okay, yeah, sorry. I was second guessing myself there. Yeah. So you would look at the knockout number here. So that would be 5. So you would look at the 5, and then you look at Buster Douglas's KO, which is a 9. So you go across 5 to the 9. And 5F would be score 5 points plus a minimum of 6 killer instinct opportunities. Use full killer instinct more than 6. Seems wrong what I'm doing here. Hang on one more second here while I check this out. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Again, I'm second guessing myself. So again, you would look at the KOR number, which is a 5. Then you look at Buster Douglas's KO number, which is a 9. So you do look up the KD number on this side, which I was getting confused by. So you look up the 5, which would be his knockout number instead, and then you go across to the 9. So the 9 in this case is a 5. So then Buster Douglas wouldn't be knocked out. He would get back up to his feet, because if it was a lower number, if it was a K, then he'd be knocked out. So that's how you would do a knockout on the chart. But he wouldn't be knocked out. But you would look up his knockdown count, because they could be something called carryover. So then you'd flip another card from the actual side deck, and you would see that the knockdown count would be a 9. So that means he just made it just before the 10 count. He got up at a count of 9. So that's how you would do a knockout. You would check to see the first time if he was knocked down, and then after that you would check to see, you would read the instruction on the chart, and then after it would tell you to go into Killer Instinct, or to check his knockout. This chart will tell you exactly what you're supposed to do here. They have all the instructions here for when you cross reference on a knockdown or a knockout. It'll tell you. But if you are trying to score a knockout and you don't come across a K, then you know that he's still on his feet. The fight is still going on. So there's that. And then let's just say if he went into Killer Instinct, so he scored that, and the chart said go into Killer Instinct. So now you would look at Joe Louis's Killer Instinct here, which is a 10. So then you would take the first 10 cards of your deck here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now you would take these 10 cards, and then you would start flipping them, and Joe Louis automatically has control. You don't even have to check the control factor. So now you're just checking the random numbers. So then you would check a 48. A 48 for Joe Louis. If you look at his card, a 48 is an actual miss. So now Buster Douglas would actually get to counter Joe Louis. So now we would flip a card for Buster Douglas. We look at the random number. It's a 66. So a 66 does not fall in Buster Douglas's punch range, so that would be nothing. But because it's Joe Louis's Killer Instinct, he still has control. So then we flip the next card, a 44. That's again another counter punch opportunity for Buster Douglas. So then you flip a card for Buster, see if he's able to counter. He's able to counter. A 9 is within his punches landed. He also has what's called the counter punch C2, so that would be added to his punches landed. So his counter punching is a 1 to 32. So the random number was a 9, so now you're able to check that. So he's landing a punch, and then you look at the result, 62. So a 62 for Buster Douglas on the results would be a 2-point combination. So it falls in that blue category, 60 to 67. So then you'd mark it 2 points. So he's still firing off at Joe Louis, even though he's in trouble of being knocked out again, possibly, or knocked down. Joe Louis would still have control, so then you would still go through. You look at a 60. A 60 is clinching for Joe Louis or Buster Douglas. 53, Buster is still holding on. 39, that would score because Joe Louis has punches landed from 1 to 40 on Buster. So the 39 would land. Then you look at the result of 70. The 70 would be, on Joe Louis's card, a 3-point uppercut. If you push it up, a 3-point uppercut for Joe Louis. So then you would mark that on there, plus whatever he had scored from his initial knockdown. And then after the last card is a 24, so that actually lands for Joe Louis. And then you look at the next card result, 1 PB. So 1 PB is you would score 1 and it'd be partially blocked. Okay, so this is how you go through the fight. So you're going through this action deck, and it actually goes pretty quickly. You're just flipping cards here. So Joe Louis has control. He still would have control. And then you look at the random number, 47. A 47 is a missed punch. And, another optional rule you could do is miss punches. You could write them down beside Joe Louis's name or beside the round to show that he has a missed punch. And that would go to his endurance. That would be a -1 to his endurance. So you could do that as an extra for endurance to try and get the fighters, more realistic that their missed punches are taking fatigue off them. So you're essentially going through that. You're just flipping cards for control, reading numbers, fouls. So here would be a foul. If Joe Louis has control, you look at his foul rating is an A. These cards are so slippery on this table here, hard to grab. So his foul would be an A, and then you would flip from the other action deck, right? So you don't want to flip your actual cards for, say, checking fouls and checking injuries and that kind of thing, because this is actually your minutes in your fight here. So the knockdowns, knockouts, you would check in your actual deck that you're using for the round. But other types of things like fouls, you might want to go to another the other deck, cut a card or take the top card off. And then the fouls work. Joe Louis is a foul A. I draw another foul. That's kind of funny. So let's go to another card. So this would be say a 10. So then you look on the foul chart. You look at the foul chart. Where is that? That is over here, right in the middle. So you look at a 10A. So you look at a 10A, and there is nothing for Joe Louis here. He would be fine. So it would be, waves off the fighter's complaint, or 10 cautions both. Sorry, it'd be between 1 to 50. Cautions both fighters. Keep your punches up above the waist. So he'd be fine. So there would be no foul. If there was a foul, then you would note it on the sheet that he fouled, that he did a low blow or whatever the case is. If there's an injury, so there's cards that have, say, injury or special. So here's one that says special. So then you might cut a card, look at the special, and here's a special action. Fighter leans back into the ropes and they start to give way. Bout is stopped while ropes are tightened. Immediately add plus 15 to both fighters' endurance. So they'd be resting. So, there's all these different things here, but it's a matter of, going through the cards and understanding, checking for control, checking the random number, and then, the random numbers tell you, you look on the cards of the fighters, and then they would tell you if it's a punch landed, punch missed, clinching, ring movement. If you have, say, a random number for ring movement, 79. 79 is ring movement. So if Joe Louis had control, 79, you might get the ring center, which the 2 dice are at, ring center, or he might draw a card like this that says on near ropes. So then you would move the fighters here. So Joe Louis would be the blue fighter. He's got Buster against the ropes. And now, if you have a fighter against the ropes, then Joe Louis now, instead of his 10, because Buster is a boxer, he would be a +1. So now he, whenever you flip a card, he controls on 11 and under and not 10 and under, because he has the advantage on Buster Douglas. If it was Buster Douglas, if Buster Douglas was a slugger, then it would be a +2. So then you would add 2. So then it would be a 12 control factor for Joe Louis. But because Buster is a boxer, it's only a +1, so it'd be 11. Excuse me. This is crazy with this game. So, this is essentially the game here. You're flipping cards. You get to the end of the round. You have the 2 decks. Then you flip to the next set of cards. You go through that. Once you've done 2 rounds, you reshuffle the 100 cards, separate them again into 50, and then, you keep going. You're scoring points in between rounds. You're looking to see the differential between punches. Then you look at the judge's score sheet to see what the punch differential is, and then you score accordingly. So that is essentially the crux of the game. How to play this game. It's really easy. It really kind of gets into a flow, but I do have a couple beefs with the game. So one thing I will say is that you have this nice rule book. It is very well nicely colorized and organized, and it actually has a nice table of contents kind of thing to tell you where things are in the rule book. So if you're having trouble finding something, you can just look up technical knockout, page 21. So that I like that. That is very, very well done in that way. Here was the fighter traits at the back of the book here. So you have your second wind, you have careless, fire plug. So for Joe Louis was a strong closer. So if we look up strong closer, excuse me, I was getting over a bit of a cold here. So here you see what a strong closer is for Joe Louis's trait. So in any fight against an opponent whose overall rating is within 1, equal to or higher, increases fighter's control factor by 1 during the last 2 rounds of the bout. Well, Joe Louis already is 10 to Buster's 9. So this would increase. So this would increase his control factor by 1 during the last 2 rounds of the bout. So he's trying to get that extra edge on Buster Douglas if that was the case. But some fighters, like if Buster was an 8, then it wouldn't matter because Joe Louis already has a 2-point factor in his control factor rating, so that wouldn't really take an effect. So you just have to read what the traits are and if they benefit the fighter or not. But that is essentially the game here, really in a nutshell of how you play it. You're just flipping through the cards, reading what they say, and I really like that part of the game. That to me, that's kind of it's kind of nice to see the cards kind of flow through. My gripes with this game, if now there are, this game could get really diverse, really expansive if you really look to go into like adding all kinds of different factors to your game and that kind of thing. There's a lot of different, expansion of rule sets for referees and cornermen and stuff like that. Not essential to play, but if you want to get deeper into it, you can. That's totally up to you. You could play it as kind of a normal system or go into that type of stuff. That's totally up to you. This cuts and swelling table here. So that's the only thing I've had problems with, is that I'm not really sure of. I've had instances where, say like this here, major swelling under right eye. So this is, drawing a 64 to 65 number. How you get to that is you take the fighter's cut number. So let's say for Buster is a 7. Then you would add it to the random number of the cards. So let's say it'd be a 45, this card here. So you'd add the 47 to the 45. So that's 52. So then you would look up 52 on the cut numbers and see, major swelling over right eye, -1 from defense. So, okay, so that's cool. This also gives you a number for the injury, which is 2 points. If you get to 10 or 15 cut points, then depending upon the referee, you could order a check be made by the ringside doctor, and that could also lead to a stoppage of the fight. So I get that. That's actually straightforward. But if you have something like major swelling under right eye, this here, I've had this for 1 or 2 fighters. So this is like -2 defense, -2 punches landed, and add +1 to cut. -2 punches landed. If you're looking at the punches landed already in the columns, -2 is already half this column gone. So this is really crippling to a fighter here. So and then I wasn't sure, like, if he gets another something like this here, minor cut over the left eye, then does this stack onto this? So now is this a -3? For defense, and -1 punches landed, so that would be -3 punches landed. So that wasn't really making sense to me. So that part wasn't really making sense. I've tried to look it up in the rule books and that, and I played the other night. I had a match with Sugar Shane Mosley against the K9 there, Burgundy, I think his name is. I had a fight, and the K9 there he was crippled by that. Like, he just wasn't landing any more punches. There was like 3 rounds where he landed just 0 punches, and I had to call the stop to the fight because it was just like he's not doing anything. So so there's like that. That was, to me, that's not addressed in the rule book about that. Another thing also is some of the numbers for certain things. So like, say for instance the chart here. So if you had, say, this K110. So on a random number of 1 to 10, score 6 points, plus knockdown and full killer instinct. On 11 to 20, score 6 points, and add killer knockdown 2, for the rest of the round. So I get that, But when you're drawing cards and you get a number like 65, for instance, here's a random number, um, it's hard to, uh, I was like, well, what do you do with this 65? This doesn't fall into that. Some people would say, well, maybe you use the result number, which you could, I guess. Or, what it doesn't say in the rule book is maybe draw another number, draw another card. Oh, now I get an 11, so now this falls under the, instead, excuse me, 11 to 20, score 6 points and add KD2 for the rest of the round. So that's not really explained in the rule book. It's not explained on this chart either. So, like some of this stuff here, they've upgraded stuff, but then they've left stuff kind of like up in the air on certain things, especially for someone that's new to Title Bout. I'm not, I haven't played this I never played this game. I wasn't there in 1979 when this game was made, or this is the first time I've purchased a Title Bout game, so I'm not familiar with the old Title Bout rules. I'm still learning. But, like some of those things, they need to be addressed. I've tried looking, like I'm not on any Facebook groups or anything, so it's probably a little harder for me to get some questions answered sometimes. I'm on the Board Game Geek. You ask questions there, but it's probably a bit of a ghost town because this is not a game that's like super probably played a lot, I'm assuming, right? So so those things could be a little frustrating, and that's why I really wanted to do a review video on this, and kind of like put what I felt, questions that need to be answered possibly, or if you're curious about getting this game, like what you're really getting with your game here. Now, again, you bought, now this, as far as the purchasing of the game, you buy the core set, you get the tables, you get the 100 heavyweights, and there are many expansions, but you have to pay extra. They don't come with your fighters. Again, I would recommend getting these plastic cases. This is really good for keeping your cards in, because there's no box. It's not a box set that you're getting. You're just getting cards, charts, and that's essentially it. This here you have to print out. Luckily, Dave, Wargaming Cave, decided to print out something on Board Game Geek that you could print for free and print off as your table, as your gameplay area. So lucky for that. Thank you, Dave. But that's what you're getting with your game. Then you have to get the little markers to mark off the fighters and the scoring in that. So, and then there is plenty of different divisions in the game. There's the heavyweights, there's the welterweights, there's the middleweights, there's the flyweights. There's all the different weights in the game. So there's plenty of divisions, plenty of fighters underneath each division. Like the other boxing game that I reviewed, to have 100 fighters, to have this set of heavyweight fighters here, am I going to be able to play all these guys? Like you could take someone like Joe Louis, Andrew Galata, try and have them run through the whole heavyweight division of cards that you have, but you're getting tons with just one division as it is, yet to have all the other divisions. So it's totally up to you if you want to get the divisions, complete the game. That's totally up to you, but again, just within one division, you're getting plenty. And the game, it does, again, the cards to play these boxing action cards, it has a nice feel. The cards flow. Once you know what you're looking for, it actually goes by pretty quickly. A game can be played within an hour. Depending on what happens in the fight. If a guy gets knocked down, knocked out, or whatever the case is. So it could play that quickly. But what I am finding a lot is, with these cards, I'm getting a lot of the injuries, like a lot of the cuts. So not necessarily injuries, but getting the cuts. So something like here, you get something like the result 44 cut. So then your result, you're checking out the cut table for your fighter, and then you get something like what I said there, were a 67, where it's like, oh my goodness, a -2 to defense and punches landed. Wow, this is crippling this guy. Um, and you don't really see a lot of fights stopped uh, by cuts. Like it happens. It is a part of the game. It is a part of the sport, but you don't see a lot of fights stopped that way. So I've seen guys on a different forum talking about how a lot of the fights were stopped by cuts. So it's sad. Maybe it's one of those options that it's your game, so you could decide what you want to do with it, or if it happens a second time, maybe that goes into effect. So maybe you played how you want to play it. So that's totally up to you. But overall, I really like this game. I'm still learning it, as you could tell by the video a bit. I'm still learning. I played a few fights, and I really enjoyed the game. Comparing it to the other boxing game, I'd probably maybe do a head-to-head comparison to see, if if you really need two boxing games in your collection. Like some guys probably have a good 10 boxing games in their collection. They don't really care. But if you're someone on a budget and you like boxing, and you're like, well, which one is better, or which one is right for me? Maybe I should do a video on that. Maybe doing a head-to-head. But as far as this game is concerned, I think it's a solid boxing game. I think the system plays well, and if you're able to get past some of the chart reading, and obviously taking down notation in between rounds of scoring punches, the punches landed, and that kind of thing. And by the way, the punches landed when you score them. So if he scores a 3, Buster Douglas, then the 3 would be taken off Joe Louis's endurance, right? So Joe Louis, his card here, we look at his card here. So his endurance is a 90, and say Buster Douglas scored 3 for the round. So what is he at, guys? He's at an 87 now. Okay, so that's how the endurance works, and then you write down 87 for round 2. So that's how you know what endurance Joe Louis is at. When he reaches 0, then you would go over to this yellow category and the fatigue side of Joe Louis's card. So that's how the fatigue system works in this game. So that's all cool. And again, another option for the fatigue system or the endurance system is the missed punches. So if he throws a missed punch, you'd write it down on a sheet of paper. Maybe a one beside the round that it happened. So round 3, you put a little nick beside Joe Louis's 3 here to show that he missed a punch. Put that towards his endurance. That's subtracting from his endurance to make him more tired because he's missing punches. So I like that. I actually like that optional rule. I saw that on Dave's Wargaming Cave channel, which is really good. Check out his channel, guys. It's a lot of information there. He does a really good job of playing the game and kind of showing you how it's done, because he's a veteran of Title Bout. He played it years ago. So check that out for sure. There are other guys who have done videos playing the game on... there is a computer version of the game. If you want, check out Al Red Sox fan. He does some good stuff playing it online. He's had some videos on there. So check his stuff out. He's done some good stuff with it. But if you're trying to play the board game version like this here, yeah, definitely check out Dave's Wargaming Cave. He did a couple fights, and he did them really well. So, and he also talks about the strategies and referees and cutmen and stuff like that. He has that on one of his videos. So, So other than that, this game is great. It's a good game. The system is a solid system. There's a lot of different little readings to do, but once you get the hang of it, like again, it's a 52-page rule book, so that could be a little daunting to be like, wow, 52 pages. But once you you check out the system of how it plays, you kind of get the understanding. You actually maybe watch maybe one or two guys play it on YouTube, and you kind of get the flow of the game. Then it's actually it's a really good system, and it flows pretty good. So if I had to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably give this, I would say probably an 8 out of 10. So, great game. Good boxing game. Excuse me. Still learning it. Still have lots of matches to play. I probably will still have lots of questions, even myself, concerning certain things once I get to certain points of the game. But uh, yeah, it is a good game though for the most part, and yeah, the learning curve again when you play maybe your first game, you might be playing it for over a couple hours just trying to like get the flow, but after that it becomes second nature and it's a little more easier each time. So that's it, guys. That's Title Bout 2. I wanted to give a good review on it, give you the little intricacies about the game and how it's changed, and even for some of the older guys that play within even Title Bout 2, how it's changed even probably within their realm of Title Bout 2, not even from the first one, but even within the second one, how it's changed even. So um, hopefully, I've done a good job of trying to explain this as best I can. If you have any questions, comments about this game, please feel free to ask. I'll, try and answer you as best as I can. And I just thank you guys for watching again. Thank you guys for those who have subscribed to my channel and who support me. I just thank you so much, guys. I hope this helps you out in any decisions or playing the game. And thank you, thank you, and hope to see you guys in the next video. God bless, take care, and we'll see you soon.